Noreen, this time can start.
Yes, sir.
All the best to you. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Good evening. I'm Noreen Fatima, and I welcome you all to the 94th talk of Intersociety weekly webinar series, jointly organized by IEEE Kerala section, the Institution of Engineers Kerala State Center, Computer Society of India Trivandrum Chapter, Project Management Institute Kerala Chapter, Intersociety Trivandrum Chapter, Vakkom Moulavi Foundation Trust Trivandrum, Life Member Affinity Group IEEE Kerala section, IEEE Engineering in Medicine and Biology Kerala Chapter, the Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. Blockchains or digital leaders has been perhaps the most important technological feat in the preceding decade. Based on the idea of decentralization, blockchains promise a world of infinite possibilities with its scope of applications extending from money and financial sectors to the world, arts, and one of the interesting products of the technology has been emerging universe of cryptocurrencies and crypto tokens. Today, on our 94th talk, we have Professor A Damodaran, Economics and Social Sciences Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, sharing his wisdom on blockchain, the shape of things to come. Before we begin, I would like to kindly bring your attention to the feedback link that will be provided during the session. Kindly fill the form and let us know your opinion. Also, please don't hesitate to mention if there is any requirement for the certificate of attendance. Now, I would like to call Ms. Rushta Shaju, EMBS volunteer, for welcoming the gathering.
Thank you, Naurin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel it's my pleasure and privilege to be representing IEEE family and to welcome each one of you to the 94th talk of Intersociety weekly webinar series talks. Let me appreciate the efforts of Harindlal sir, co-volunteers and the professionals of Kerala section for supporting this event in making this a huge success for the past 93 talks, bringing out the best profiles and presentations to the visual room. Moving on to my assigned duty, let me welcome our esteemed speaker, Professor A Damodaran, IIM Bangalore, who will be talking about the blockchain, the shape of things to come. I welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome Harindlal sir, Chair of Intersociety, the lead of IWWS, to this evening. Welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to extend my warm welcome to the volunteers of today's session. Anlon Saji, Naurin Fatima, Sandra Baiju, and Jacob Varghese to the 94th talk. I wholeheartedly welcome all the co-organizing societies, the professional community, and the most charming participants to this wonderful evening. Once again, my cordial welcome to all of you to the 94th talk of Intersociety weekly webinar series. Thank you.
Thank you, Rushta. Now, I would like to invite Sandra Baiju of EMBS to introduce our respective speaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to invite, I'm extremely privileged to welcome our speaker of the session, Professor Damodaran sir. He did his doctoral studies in economics and has held academic and professional assignments abroad, including visiting faculty positions. He was environmental fellow with the US Environmental Protection Agency and a visiting scholar at the University of California at Berkeley under the US Asia Environment Program in 1994. He has also held visiting faculty positions at the University of Bonn, Germany, Institute of Developing Economics, Japan, University of Wageningen, Netherlands, and the Graduate School of Management, St. Petersburg State University in Russia. In 2012, he was appointed visiting fellow at the United Nations University, Institute of Advanced Studies, Japan. As a scholar in residence at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, USA in 2015, he worked on the convergence on environmental economics and cultural economics. Apart from his work on environmental and climate financing, Damodaran sir led the initiative on biodiversity financing for the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity in 2011, which was morphed into the UNDP-driven BioFin project. Since 2015, he has been the chairperson of GOI, Technical Advisory Committee of BIOFIN India. He has also been involved with analysis of the economics of distributed network technologies, cryptocurrency and crypto tokens generated through blockchains and IoT-based platforms, and has written on these topics and provided industry-level inputs. He was part of India's delegation to CBD to negotiate biodiversity financing issues in COP 11. With utmost honor and privilege, I would like to welcome the chief guest of the session, Damodaran sir. Sir.
Thank you, Sandra. That was indeed a great introduction. Moving on to formal session, I humbly welcome our honored speaker, A Damodaran sir, to take over the session. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much. I am really happy that I got a chance to speak to you, to all of you. And this is a topic which I have been working on for quite some time, since 2014. And I had a look at this topic primarily because at IIM Bangalore, we have a program called the postgraduate program in enterprise management, which comprises of people with technical background and mostly working in the information technology industry. So thanks to interacting with them, I got interested in this topic. And the added feature of this topic is that it is closely connected to the economics of money and finance. And that was something which I was working on in the context of biodiversity and climate change. So that is where I come from. And to start with, I'm just basically going to focus on what blockchains are. Of course, some of you know what it is, and why they have evolved in the manner that they have, and what is a larger picture that you get as we move forward. So that is the context. So let me start off by moving the screen. Yeah. So this is how I would like to begin with what blockchain is. Now, this is a famous picture which the French photographer Michaud, who wrote a book called The Mirror of India about 25 years ago. He took different facets of India's rural life as well as urban life and put it together. It's a very amazing book in terms of pictures that he captured. The book has some text, but I think the pictures are more telling than the text. And one of the pictures is this that you see on the screen. This is a typical moneylender sitting in maybe some village in Rajasthan or Uttar Pradesh or one of those states. And he's keenly looking at this, his accounts book. And you can see this accounts book which on the screen, which is a very interesting account book. It is yellow in color and it is very long. It extends, it goes right under his foot. So you can imagine how long it is. And this, in my view, and here he has a pen, and obviously he's trying to make some entries. And these entries are in a new page. I mean, he's just started writing. But it is quite likely that these tables that you can see on this side, you can see all these tables. These are the accounts that he has maintained of different people who have taken loans from him. And at times, as he is writing down, he also goes back to the previous pages and starts rewriting some of these entries, right? And if he is doing that, and in fact, most of the stories from India, rural India, is about the fact that he did not write new entries, but he also tampered with the old ones. And that, if that happens, that is very bad news. And that has been happening in India as well as many other countries in the world. Moneylenders accountants, all of them are very fond of playing with the registers. And these registers in today's parlance would be called ledgers. Now, ledger is basically a system of account. We call it double entry accounting and all that. But the point is, it's an accounts book. It is a little more than that, but it is an accounts book, which has been maintained for almost for many centuries. And maintained well, it has been an established system, and it is associated with exploitation. And that is exactly the starting point of blockchains. So blockchain is nothing but if this is the ancient Indian spreadsheet, to use this parlance from IT industry, blockchains are all about intangible spreadsheets. They're digital, therefore they're intangible. And the problem with the blockchain is that the accounts books is almost all the accounts entries in a blockchain are there as he would have entered. It is double entry, and in fact, these days they are talking about a triple entry bookkeeping system. But whatever be the case, in this blockchain system, this writing is not done by a pen. It could be a stylus, it could be a keyboard. And the whole point about this blockchain is that he can make new entries, not he, a group of people. That is the best part of it. Not just one individual sitting and looking at entering transactions in the record, in the ledger, but countless number of them. They will be watching, they will be either sitting and watching the accounts books as they're maintained, they're verifying it. And some of them would be making entries also. So what is the advantage of this digital system? It is, first of all, it is intangible. You don't get to see this big book. There's nothing tangible about it. It is in the internet, and it is digital. And once it is digital, the idea is that the entries are also intangible. You can see it on the screen, but you can't see it in a physical form. And these entries, that is a more important part of it, they cannot be rewritten or tampered. So this is the whole point. Now, in this picture of Michaud, basically he's going back to the previous entries and trying to tamper with it. And that is how he has exploited people who have taken loans from it. Now, in a blockchain, it is impossible. It is impossible to tamper with it because the block, every database which is contained, a very accounting related database that is contained in a blockchain, is firmly secured and protected. So the whole point is blockchain, to explain in a very simple way, is a digital ledger where entries are made by any number of people who want to enter, who are good at entering data. They can enter the data. And after entering the data, they are supposed to secure the ledger. And by closing it, and after closing the ledger, it is just unopenable. You can't just open it. So that is the whole idea behind it. So once you make an entry, it is impossible to tamper with it. And if you find that you have made a mistake, then with a particular entry, then you are supposed to not correct it. You cannot correct it. So you open a new page, a new block, and make new entries and mention that as the correction to the earlier ones. So your record is just there, in every form. It is there. What you entered, the mistakes that you made, and the kind of entries that you are still making, and how it is an improvement over the others, and so on and so forth. And the point is, who sees these ledgers? In this case, this gentleman is the only one who is seeing the ledgers. He doesn't even show it to the peasant or the farmer who takes loans from it. But in the case of blockchain, technically, and it is practically also seen in some context, anyone can see the blockchain. Anyone who can log into the internet and has a penchant for looking at data can see the blockchain. So this is the digital ledger which is making waves in today's world. So having explained it this way, let me get into how the dynamics works. Now, the picture in the previous page is related to this aspect that you can see on the screen. This is called a hub and spoke model. So this is the hub and these are the spokes. Now, this is very typical of the banking sector, financial sector. It is very typical of airline industry. Hub and spoke model is very popular because it is supposed to be more efficient in terms of economies of scale. And traditionally, the hub is the central point. So all the activities emanate from the hub. And some of these spokes also have some messages which have to be sent. They can't directly correspond with each other, with the others. They have to come back to the hub and then go to the next point. So this is how the hub and spoke model has always worked. It had some economic benefits, economies of scale, because you get an optimum loading. Your throughput is very efficient. And that is how all this while we have been running our show. Now take a parallel look at the banking sector. Now in the banking sector, this is called centralized networks. In the banking sector, the centralized networks works very well. This is the Reserve Bank of India, or the Federal Reserve in the US. And these are the banks, right? These are the different banks that owe their origins to the central bank. And they can't, technically speaking, they're not supposed to exchange data. These days it is possible, but in traditional times, they were not supposed to have transactions and clearance and settlements, etc., done independently. They had to go through the hub and get their operations done. Now, this hub and spoke model had a problem. And that is related to what I showed you on the previous screen, that gentleman who's sitting and writing and making entries in the ledger. Now, in the scheme of what I have described just now as centralized networks, the money lender's accountant is the sole hub, basically. He's basically making all the entries relating to transactions with reference to all his customers, clients, or whoever. And he is the central point. So if he decides to compromise, if he decides to play around with accounts books, with the account book of his, then there is no stopping. And this is exactly what the blockchain revolution is supposed to have changed. So what does the blockchain revolution do? So a blockchain revolution has a very interesting way of looking at it. It says that this system has to go, because if the hub fails or becomes compromised or gets to be compromised, then obviously the entire system collapses. So what they have said is, we go from here to here straight away. And this is called a distributed system. So in this distributed system, you can see it is a honeycomb, basically, of different points. Each point is related to the other. And because they're related to the other in direct ways, this point is indirectly, or a circuitous way, of course, it is related to this point. But in this scheme of things, there's no question of any relationships between these spokes. Therefore, this distributed model basically means there is no central hub. It's just a honeycomb. You have to look for a spot like this, you will never find it. Okay, so this is how the distributed network model has been advanced by this blockchain idea. Now, a lot of people, and even sometimes I am tempted to do this, we all call it decentralized. Even when I wrote the synopsis or the small abstract for this talk, I mentioned it as a decentralized system. And I was feeling very uneasy about mentioning it, but it is so very frequently used. A lot of people use it. The other day I saw that Nandan Nilekani has brought out a new book on Bitfly or something. I mean, it's a new book. I happen to read that. He talks about blockchains and he says it is decentralized. It is not decentralized. It is distributed. So that is the whole philosophy of blockchains, that it is distributed. Each one can talk to anyone they want. And it is all distributed. The power is distributed amongst many, many people. And whereas the problem with decentralization is, it presupposes that there is centralization. Blockchains have not come as a breakaway or a breakdown, or they have not tried to break down the existing system of centralized banking. and decided to create their own financial structures. They are just a spin-off, it's a new spin-off of a distributed community, which is trying to challenge the centralized banking and the centralized network systems associated with banking, and in some cases which have some of which have morphed into decentralized system that you see. Now, what's the difference between this diagram and this diagram? It's very simple. This diagram is an improvement over the hub and spoke model. There are many hubs, multiple hubs, but each hub is an island by itself. So each hub has got some nodes, spokes, and they are in touch with one another. And then you have each of the hubs are in touch. You can see this hub is connected, this one is connected. So, and it comes like this, it comes like this. But the point is, again, these two don't meet, they don't communicate. So decentralization is basically a misnomer. It is a kind of a term which is very, which is used in an incorrect way to describe the objects. It is basically distributed. Honeycomb. There is no central node at all in a honeycomb system. So the basic absurd philosophy, if one can call that an absurd philosophy, in a blockchain is that since there is no central node, there is no central controlling power. Everybody is controlling it. And since many people are controlling it, and therefore nobody controls it. So this is the idea. So if I want to change any entry, I am not just watched by one person whom I can buy over, or a group of decentralized nodes which I can, who I can buy over. But I don't know, all these people are watching me. So I can't buy everyone. I can only buy a few of them. And therefore, this system is supposed to take care of a lot of manipulations in accounts and fudging of accounts and financial systems. This was the assumption in the blockchain. Now let me move on to the further aspects of blockchain. Now, what exactly happens in the blockchain? As I mentioned, it's a digital ledger, operates through the internet, and it is a distributed ledger because you saw the previous diagram, the last diagram, the third one. A distributed community runs it. There's no single node or a group of people running it. And the whole point was that entries are made, data is entered, transaction data, or any other form of data. It can be land records, it can be payments, it can be settlement systems, it can be anything. But it is done and it is updated in real time. Right? It is not entered in batches. It is entered as it happens because it is digitized. So you don't wait for this money lender to come and take his pen and the previous day's transactions he'll start entering one by one. It doesn't happen. It happens in real time. It's updated in real time. And for every entry is timestamped. Now that is the beauty of it. Every entry is timestamped with reference to a serial number, not even the time, actually the time that we are used to, say 625 or 626. It doesn't even take that into account. It is a numbering, a sequential system of numbering, which they call it as timestamp. And the credit of doing this goes to Leslie Lamport. Now, Leslie Lamport is a very eminent computation specialist who jumped into this idea of timestamping. And he said that even computer times between my computer and your computer, which you are looking at, there could be a minor microsecond difference. So he had designed this idea of timestamping based on almost continuous units, not discrete units. And it was timestamped. Now, why do we timestamp it? To show who undertook the first move as far as a transaction is concerned and precisely determine. So supposing 7 people are waiting in the queue and each one is claiming that my time is, the time I logged in was 7:23. My computer time and your computer time, there could be a fraction of a minute. It could be 7:24 in your computer, but in mine it is 7:23. There can be disputes. So this one completely removes that problem by timestamping it in terms of a chronological timestamp, not in terms of the time units that we are used to on a day-to-day basis. And then what happens in this is the other interesting aspect of it. It is after it is timestamped, all the entries are timestamped, then it is cryptographically sealed. Now, what do you mean by saying cryptographically sealed? It basically means that a ledger, which you saw in the first picture, was a ledger which was going infinitely. It was being run for years and years. In this case, it doesn't happen that way. As soon as the data that you have entered crosses the limit of 1 MB or 2 MB, nowadays it is revised to 2 MB and 3 MB. The moment that happens, you have to close the block. In other words, close the ledger, that sheet, that big accounts book. You have to close that at that point. So instead of getting one big accounts book which is running for years, you have multiple accounts book, one linked to the other, like a garland. So the data, the metadata, or the data of data, which you have in respect of the first ledger is carried over to the second. And it is basically reflected in all the subsequent ledgers. So multiple blocks are multiple ledgers, digital ledgers, each one tied to the other. And if you want to break one or make an entry in one, you cannot do it without alerting the others. The entire set of blocks in the chain. So this is the whole design of blockchains. And how do you secure and close a ledger which has crossed the limit of 1 MB data? Data basically means, if it is a financial transaction, particular, supposing I am transacting with one of you, my details, when the amount that has been transferred, my particular details, not in person, not my personal details, my location, related data, everything has to be loaded in the blockchain. So blockchain is not just making entries of how much money was transferred from whom to whom. It doesn't talk about who to who, because it is supposed to keep that anonymous. The persons are anonymous, but their addresses and broad location points are clear, are there for everyone to see. But who that person is, one cannot find out. So what happens is, the moment that the 1 MB limit is achieved, the block is closed. Now, how do you close it? You secure a hash function, and it's called as in the block, the original blockchain. That is, the original blockchain came in 2008. It has been designed by a person by name Satoshi Nakamoto. Sounds Japanese, but we don't know whether it is a person or a group of people. It is pseudonymous. The name is pseudonymous, but that does not matter. The point is, this they envisaged a scheme, and that scheme was basically that you solve a mathematical puzzle by arriving at a hash function. Hash is the SHA-256 code that they use to arrive at the hash function. It is a mathematical puzzle that you solve, a unique number that you solve using your computers. And the moment you get that number, that ID number of the block, which is a unique number and which is cryptographic, which means you cannot break it, because you don't exactly get the real data that it carries. So it is a pseudo number, but it is strong, and that hash function is used to close the. Now, once the block is closed, all these people who are watching this entire set of operations in the blockchain sphere, as I told you, anyone can join. Anyone from Australia, Switzerland, India, or any country can join. It is on the internet. So internet is a universe by itself. So anyone can join. There are no nation states or boundaries or anything else. So the moment that happens, a few of them who do not do this puzzle solving activity, what they do is they'll test whether this particular number which has been generated, the hash, has been strong enough or not. So basically what they do is, how do they test it? They do what is called as ethical hacking. They try to break the system, break the lock of the blockchain. And if the blocks, not the blockchain, but the block. So if they are able to break that lock, it means they will not clear it. So they'll say that this is an imperfect job. This has not been closed. So they'll work on the next block cannot start. So this is how it works. And if they find that the block has been closed, the hash function is very unique, it is unbreakable, in that case, they say yes to the transaction and they say yes to the sealing of the block. And they approve it, they validate it as having been firmly, securely closed. And the moment that happens, once they approve it, this approval comes, this block is linked to the previous one. And a new chain is created for the next block to start. And that is why it's called a blockchain. It's a string of different blocks. And you can imagine that it is in the skies, and you can imagine that, you know, some blocks are floating, rectangular blocks are floating, each one chained to the other, each one carrying the data of the other. So that you cannot break one without alerting the others. And therefore it is impossible to break a blockchain transaction. So this is how the system works. So what is the other aspect? The moment you achieve that success, you have solved the puzzle, you have closed the blockchain, and the community of validators, they agree that it has been done properly, and your block gets joined to the previous block. Then there is something you hear on your computer, a clink, basically. And that clink is your Bitcoins coming and falling into your wallet. Now, these wallets are not the wallets that we carry. It is in your computer. It is a digital wallet. So you get that reward, which is called a Bitcoin. And this Bitcoin is all what you come across in news as creating problems the regular monetary for the creating problems for the monetary sector, the official monetary sector in the world. So this is a reward for closing a blockchain and mining it and closing it. They call it mining the Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin is like gold. So if you look at the websites, you'll find Bitcoin as a golden coin with B written. This is all in the imagination. You don't get to see the Bitcoin. It's intangible, it is digital. And the Bitcoin by itself, that is the most interesting part. It is not just that the cryptography is used to close a blockchain and secure it through a unique hash function. The coin itself is cryptographically protected. That's why you call it cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is an output of the blockchain, is a reward of the blockchain. And the creators of the blockchain idea, that is Satoshi Nakamoto, they said that, you know, this reward system is something which should be the basis for the new monetary economy. And this Bitcoin should become the currency of the world, not just of India or US or Europe or Germany or anything. It shall be for the entire world. There are no borders, preventing it from flowing outside. So like in today's world, the fiat currencies, fiat because, it has no value. The paper currency is, we are accepting the paper currency because it has a backing of the central government. It is a fiat of the central government, or central bank or the government. And therefore we are accepting it. We don't ask questions. We are not supposed to ask questions because under the payment acts of every country, you are supposed to honor the currency of that country. And it's called a fiat currency. Now that fiat currency has nothing to do with this Bitcoin. It's a different universe altogether. They're saying we will just have a community of people, we will only transact in Bitcoins. So this is how the Bitcoin idea has come. So the point I'm trying to say is there's a cryptography involved in closing the ledger and securing it so that you can break it, you can rewrite it, you can tamper with it. And secondly, there's a second cryptography used for ensuring that the currency that comes out as a reward itself is cryptographically protected. Now the question is, what is so crypto about cryptocurrency? First, it is a programmed money. And if you ask the blockchain community, they will never tell you that they are programming the money that they have created, which is cryptocurrency. They're not programming, but it's a fact that it is programmed. Now, how is it programmed? It is programmed through a code. It is a unique code. It's about a few digits are involved. So that's all. You don't get to see a Bitcoin except in pictures. Basically, it is a number, a unique code. Now, What is the advantage of that code? You cannot counterfeit. You cannot counterfeit that currency. Whereas in fiat currency, you can have any number of versions created and you can counterfeit the currency. And secondly, you can't use the same currency for multiple transactions, same currency unit for multiple transactions. So that is called the double spend problem. So I have one 10 rupee, 100 rupee note, and it is written as 2xxx. That's a number. I cannot keep on using that for buying multiple currencies. It is programmed that this cryptocurrency will not be vulnerable to double spending. So this is the whole idea of the coding process in this. And once this system starts working, the people who own crypto coins, that is the miners, they will start buying things from the market. They'll also, a few of the cryptocurrencies of these people who are supposed to verify and all, they also get some rewards. Though that is not very firmly established. They also get some rewards in crypto coins. So this entire community will start using crypto coins and they will start jettisoning the fiat currency. And that is how the alternative monetary system will be established. This is how the blockchain idea has been. So when does the need for blockchain arises? You want automated transactions, real-time updation, recorded data should not be deleted or modified. You want to remove intermediaries between participants. In good old days, we had a cooperative model to do it. Now they're saying there's no need. Everything is programmed, it's digitized, so you don't need intermediaries. Data needs to be exchanged in seconds. Payment transactions are very fast. Hardly 4 to 5 seconds it takes for a Ripple. Ripple is a platform which is an alternative to the SWIFT system that we use in banking to transfer from one country. My payment, if I want to transfer it to my friend in Australia, it is traditionally done. It was traditionally done through SWIFT. I continue to do it. It takes some time. SWIFT has improved a lot thanks to the competition from blockchains. This is done almost instantaneously, 4 to 5 seconds. So there is a platform called Ripple, which is a special blockchain, which is trying to replace inter-country, interpersonal transactions in finance. It is all done in very efficiently and in a very little time. So this is the other aspect of it. And settlements are system, because every payment, you make a payment, it has to be settled. How do you settle it? The person who receives it accepts the payment, accepts that she has received the payment, and the person who has sent it also finds that the money has been debited from himself. But these transactions, again, I'm trying to say that the blockchain, the progenitors of blockchain, they said that it should all be done, nothing to do with US dollars or Indian rupee, it will all be done in cryptocurrency. So this is the idea. Now what's happening is, this is a quick point I am trying to bring in. Blockchains are ledgers, and it is based on the presumption that the whole point, the economic crisis in the world, or the economic ills of the world, not crisis, economic ills of the world are related to flaws in the ledgering and accounting system. Now look at the first picture that I have put. The money lender has created all the problems for people, right? Because farmers remain poor because the money lender exploits them. That is because of poor ledgering. And even if you look at the origins of monetary theory, money was supposed to be a kind of a mediating unit, which allowed different goods to be transacted, different types of goods to be transacted, and it was supposed to replace the barter system. But again, the whole issue was that of payment and settlement. So I pay 2 coins. I mean, I pay some money to get a particular product from someone. And I get a product which I don't get the product, then I have lost the money. Or sometimes the person who has delivered the product does not get the money. So the entire economics of money has centered on the issue of payment and settlement. And this is precisely what the blockchain has tried to solve effectively. So the point is, that was the original idea in the 2008 white paper which Satoshi Nakamoto wrote, it was basically meant as a payment mechanism. So the idea was to replace money which is used in day-to-day in our day-to-day transactions with bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, which will make the money as a means of payment much more efficient, and secondly, much more effective. But what happened is that as a few years went by 2012, 2013, a new idea came up, again based on the idea of a ledger, digital ledger, and that was called the smart contract. A smart contract said any economic transaction, even if it is not essentially payment related, can be brought under the blockchain system. Now that means a rental agreement between me and my tenant. I'm having an apartment or a house and I'm putting it on rent. Now it's very common to have the landlord and the tenant to enter into an agreement as a power of attorney, and the notary has to sign and verify it. Well, this is the current system. And at the end of by the time the tenant is about to leave, not in all cases, but in a large number of cases, there are disputes between the landlord and the tenant. Did I agree to how did you write this? I had not seen this entry. There will be overwritings, rewritings, everything was possible. Now they are saying that even as small a thing like that can be put in a digital contract, which means nobody has to sign. It is both have checked all the entries, and then it is put in the blockchain, and anyone can see it. And if anyone can see that, they are all there to verify. You don't need a notary for that anymore, because the community has watched as to what exactly has been the contract, and rewriting is impossible. And therefore, something as small as that, along with your tenancy, certificate, which you get for your land holdings, so can be brought under blockchain. And personal identity. Now, this is becoming very important because of privacy, and we have a personal data bill which has not been passed to an act in Parliament. The whole point is about data protection and privacy. You can use your identity, personal identity can be secured and protected through a blockchain in a cryptographic way, and can be selectively used by the user. It need not be given to some company to possess it. It can be to hold it. It can be held by you on a blockchain and released for people to verify where it is required to be verified. So this way, blockchain has got linked to data, especially personal data and industrial data. So that has gone very well with what I'm trying to say is blockchain got slightly linked to big data. Now, this big data is the big thing that has happened the last 7 to 8 years. Big data is basically means heterogeneous data sets are brought together and they are put together, and you achieve and using artificial intelligence like machine learning and deep learning, you can basically derive new patterns of relationships between very, very different variables, which was not the case with the data sets that we used to use in econometrics. Basically, we had a very limited focus. We used to have a very restricted dimensional aspect to it. So if I'm going to a village and looking at rural poverty, all that I study is land holdings, livestock holdings, savings, etc. Those dimensions are very clearly defined. But in big data, what you look at is you will also bring in factors like natural disasters, typhoons, cyclones. Those data sets are also integrated to it and subjected to machine learning and AI analysis. And you suddenly realize that a lot of poverty is because certain lands were vulnerable to natural disasters as compared to certain other lands which were natural disaster proof. So this is how the convergence of big data with blockchains have happened. And IoTs, Internet of Things, have come in a big way. These days, a new development is Internet of Value. All these things have come together to create a massive re-engineering of the way countries are going to develop. So this is where the new trends are happening. So blockchains are getting linked to IoTs. IoT is a data sensors. It is based on sensors and microcontrollers. So basically electronic circuits merged into with sensors, with actuators. You generate lots of data by minute, by second. You are generating data on water use, etc., pollution, etc. And this data has to be crunched. The data is so voluminous that you need artificial intelligence and high computation quantum computers to do it. This is the idea. Now, what does blockchain do? Blockchain does not carry all the data in the world. It has limited capacity. What blockchain does is it protects the metadata, and it ensures that the correctness of entry is, or the authenticity of entry is maintained. So it does not carry all the big data. It does not load big data at all, much less it looks at only the metadata, but it secures the metadata, and by that you are assured that the data is proper and open. So this is the other development of this thing. So these are points. So let me now come to cryptocurrency, which is the bad story of blockchain. Yes, I would say that I've been working on cryptocurrencies for quite some time. But I would say that yes, the governments have a point that cryptocurrencies are misused. It is a point. It's a dark web. A lot of dark web activities happen in cryptocurrencies. And the other flaw with cryptocurrencies is the design. It comes with the design of cryptocurrencies. The Bitcoin, which is supposed to be the first generation, the first of its kind cryptocurrency, the pioneer, it was supposed to be limited in supply. It was not supposed to be generated like in large numbers. Cryptocurrency, the Bitcoins were generated only when somebody succeeded in closing successfully a block. Without that, Bitcoin doesn't work. Whereas in the case of fiat currency, you can just print. Reserve Bank wants to print currency, they can just print currency and then issue it. Now, the whole point about the blockchain revolution was that central banks are proved to be very irresponsible when it comes to supplying money. And they overprint, they oversupply. And when it is required, they'll undersupply. And it was all at the whims and fancies of a few people in the system, because it was centralized network, going back to the old hub and spoke model that exists. So the blockchain said that, blockchain enthusiasts said that this is bad because it affects the poor people, because poor have to take the brunt of excess supply. They are the worst victims of inflation. And and in these days, when people talk about helicopter money, basically means when the COVID-19 was happening at the first wave peak, people said that people are without jobs, they're losing jobs, and they're without money. So let us have money to be dropped. I mean, just checks being sent to them at home. The US went for it. Even during the Trump administration, they decided to, for the COVID people who were subjected to lockdown, they just issued checks under the stimulus program. And these checks have reached people and they were able to cope with the first wave. But today, what we are seeing is the US is subjected to one of the worst inflation ever since 15 years ago. So US is on the verge of inflation because of excessive printing of currency, excessive money supply during the COVID time. So the blockchain community was clearly against it. They said, quite on the contrary, no authority can have the final word about increasing supply. Blockchain will be earned with the sweat of the brow. You can't just get it like that, just print and give it to people. So that was the philosophy. But the idea was that historically, why did we shift from gold standard to paper currency? Because you wanted economies to grow. You wanted money to circulate. And because money had to circulate, when it circulates, circulation is called velocity of circulation is high, then the GDP grows and economies grow. More people get jobs, therefore prosperity will be. That was the reason that in the early 20th century, and particularly after the depression, economic depression, people, countries went for paper standard. They abandoned gold standard, and they went for this paper money idea. Paper money means there is no backup, there is no reserve. For every 100 rupee note, you had to keep equivalent gold or foreign exchange. But in this fiat money era, you don't have to keep anything if you want. You just take it because governments have said that. So blockchains were against that idea. But they did not realize that when they limit the supply of cryptocurrency, what they're creating is what economists would call it as a deflation and an acute creating conditions for a depression, economic depression. So that is one of the flaws of the cryptocurrency movement, that it was very inelastic when it came to supply, and therefore it was promoting conditions for the currencies not to work. And the other problem with keeping supply is very fixed, whether it is Ethereum or Bitcoin. These are the various things that I am showing on the screen. These are the different current crypto coins that have come out. Some of them are, these two are currencies. These are tokens. Token basically means an asset, a symbol of an asset. All this has come out through the crypto window, right? But the point is, if I'm coming back to Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the most popular currencies, now it has taken a hit. And because the world itself is now headed towards an economic crisis. But that's not my point. My point is that by limiting supply, the other problem was that the money became too valuable. When money becomes too valuable, like in gold standard days, when people used to have gold coins, when gold supplies were limited, and therefore people are not spending money, they were keeping the gold with them. So that is how the supply elasticity problem has resulted in the cryptocurrencies, most of the cryptocurrencies being kept as assets. They are used for speculation, and therefore they're used for not for very legal purposes, but for something which will bring very high returns for people. So they don't want to spend that money. So this was one of the deficiencies of the cryptocurrency movement. So the point is, let me come to how National Stock Exchange of India, they have brought in a blockchain platform to conduct e-voting, electronic voting. And the blockchain enthusiasts are also saying that at some point, Election Commission of India itself may go for a blockchain. Now, what does it do? At the level of the booth level or at the polling station level, if it is all under blockchain, it is crypto. I mean, your identity, your voter, whatever you cast a vote as, it is protected, it is securely protected, and things will happen. So it has got some application like that also. Austria, for instance, has gone for complete replacement of notary services using blockchain. Now, I don't have to go further into it. Let me just get you the idea of Nirav Modi's case. This is something which I keep discussing in my class also. So Nirav Modi's case would not have happened if it was blockchain, because there's no question of a fake LOU, and there's no question of the SWIFT being used. Now, you know that, Nirav Modi's case, the PNB officials who were involved in that they had access to the SWIFT messaging system. And the first time the LOUs were to be issued, they sent an amount of, say, 15 lakh rupees. But next time they just amended the message and sent it without putting it through the core banking system. Now, this is exactly the case of Nirav Modi's case. But if it was a blockchain solution, BSFI going for that, this would not have happened, because the ledger, once you make an entry in a blockchain, then the system is so programmed that you will have to go through the system. So this is how the whole issue of blockchains happens. So all this is discussed in the slides, but I am trying to just make it simple. This is Fidor Bank in Germany has gone for Ripple. Ripple, as I told you, is an inter-party benefits and all that. Now, it's almost 7. So let me now come to a few more applications. As I told you, supply chains. Walmart is going for blockchains because McDonald's, for instance, I'm involved in a project with the McDonald's. McDonald's in Mumbai, basically, they're involved in a supply chain system which is involving blockchain. So they can track and trace and find out where exactly the problem is happening, where exactly the deterioration has happened, whether the vans which were carrying meat were properly refrigerated or the temperatures were maintained. Because what they do is they'll connect the data from the vans, from the factory, the van, etc., using IoTs. Generate all the data, put it in the blockchain so that there is no scope for any dispute. So Walmart is doing for traceability. In the arts field, it is being used for traceability. Arts means provenance testing is very important. I want to sell a painting of Ravi Verma, and I'll say it is an authentic painting, looks authentic, but the provenance is required to be adopted to find out whether it is a spurious painting or a duplicate. So these are things now being done by Christie's and all these big auction houses in terms of blockchain applications. They are trying to say that instead of getting appraisers to come and individual experts to come and check everything, a blockchain system can legitimately track from where this painting emanated and how it has landed up with this person. So if that history is very securely protected in the blockchain, then you can take it as a guarantee of a phone product. So any field, if you look at it, retail management, all the shops are getting into, the big retail chains are going in this. Insurance companies like AXA is going for it. So the idea is that you submit your insurance claim online, the data is already secure and protected, and you should get automatic payout. These things have not happened on a large scale, but it's happening on pilot basis, and in some cases it has advanced to the next level. So voting, from something like voting, your intellectual property rights, your patents, whether it is copied, it is the prior art is copied from somewhere, or the prior art has been distorted. All these things, if you put it in a blockchain, the history is very clear to you, so there cannot be any manipulation on that. And these are some of the other ideas. Real estate, all your titles. I remember that in Karnataka we had the Moulavi project, which was an electronicized version of data being kept about your land holdings. It used to be digital, but it was hacked. And there are countries like, it is a very surprising, a country which is called Georgia, which is part of the erstwhile Soviet Union, which is an independent country and which is facing problems from Russia now at this stage. They have completely transferred all the land records to a blockchain format to prevent it from getting tampered and being subjected to changes and all. So even that is happening in a big way. So escrow system is there. The moment you have a blockchain system, you don't need an escrow to guarantee your payments. Everything is, the record is there, and people know that his creditworthiness is well tested. So many people, companies like Maersk, which is of course a big shipping liner, they have gone for blockchains. And even they are linking it up with escrow systems so that payments are taken in a payments are done in a much more expeditious way. Then Uber, in some countries, they have decided to go for taking your fare in terms of Bitcoins. Now, using blockchains. So if you use blockchains for an Uber driver, it is very good because his returns will be more and it will be less for the Uber company. So some of these drivers in some countries are shifting to blockchains for that. Now the whole point is, I have discussed what is the problem with cryptocurrency, what is the good side of those currencies. But let me come to what the distortions that have happened in the blockchain system. So when Satoshi Nakamoto talked about blockchains, he said anyone can participate. Anyone can see what is happening, and therefore no one can manipulate. No single person or a group of people can manipulate it. But what has happened is companies like Reliance, Tata, I'm just giving examples. They have decided to go for a different blockchain concept. They said digital ledger is a good idea. A secure digital ledger is a good idea. And therefore, we will have our own blockchain application unlinked to cryptocurrency. It will have nothing to do with cryptocurrency. But it will not be open to everyone to be writing. It will be only open to our company, a few people who are designated to write and rewrite on the ledgers. So that is called a permissive blockchain. So the whole idea was to make it open access resource for everybody and anybody. But over a period of time, there have been distortions. They said, no, it need not be open to everyone. It can be open to a select group of people who will follow a certain protocol and be taught. They are called private blockchains and permissive blockchains. So these are some of the developments which don't go well with the original concept. So your voting records, whistleblower, all these kinds of things are public and closed. What does it mean? Voting is a very closed thing, but it is for a public interest that you are doing all these things. So there are blockchains which are designed for doing this. Then there are certain other blockchains which are public and open, like currencies, betting, video games, etc. Now it is public means it's open to public. Anyone can participate. And it is basically an open system. It is because the blockchain is open for verification also. It can be how much money you earn from betting. Everything is recorded in a consensual framework. No, few people are not sitting and maintaining the accounts. So there are blockchains like that. And then there are private and closed blockchains in the defense sector, military, tax returns. They are permissive sectors. As I told you, the Reliance example. You just have a blockchain which is running only for the company. It is not open to anyone in the internet. And then supply chain blockchains, which are like McDonald's example, which I gave you. It's private and it is open. It is open in the sense that it is open to all the stakeholders in this. So over a period of time, blockchains have undergone changes, and which is not in the spirit of the 2008 paper with the scheme that Satoshi Nakamoto developed. And the other point is, here comes the other criticism. Blockchains have not eliminated frauds. In some cases, the cryptocurrencies, which are an offset of blockchains, have created more problems than it has solved. So Ethereum is supposed to be the smart contract blockchain. It is supposed to be the greatest thing that has happened since 2015. Even that has not been very successful in that sense, because it is subjected to mining. Now, mining of cryptocurrency, mining of blocks, basically means closing the block and securing it with the high hash function. All this requires a lot of computation capabilities, and quantum computers are required. Quantum computers require a lot of energy and electricity, and therefore, and it is very bad from a climate change point of view, because you have to burn more fossil fuels to get it. So there is generally a bad image that from a climate change perspective, blockchains are not, the traditional blockchain model is not working, or it is not scalable. It is not workable, etc. Why is it not scalable? Because at best it can take 2 MB of data. It cannot be scaled. So these days, what is happening is blockchains are adjusting to this stage also. They're saying mining is not required. Closing the blockchain with a mathematical puzzle is not required. All that you need is a sound community of verifiers to sit and verify things. So like that, new blockchains are coming in. Ripple is like that. Ripple is not based on mining model, so it is not, from electricity consumption is less, and power consumption is less, and it is sustainable. So that is the other problem. And the other issue is, we hear news about, blockchain theft has happened from the wallets, and they say that how do you say that blockchains are not hackable? They are hackable. After all, the cryptocurrency wallets are being broken and money is being transferred. And here I would like to correct that it's not the blockchain which gets hacked. Blockchains cannot be hacked, given that they are programmed to be like that. It is the wallets which are subjected to the wallets which you have the wallets in which you have your cryptocurrencies. They are subjected to this old centralized network system. They get hacked. So these are some of the limitations as well as some of the myths about blockchain weaknesses. So now these things I have discussed. Now let me come to the latest developments. Now latest developments of blockchain is the smart contract idea. Smart contract idea, as I told you, came in 2013, and it was by a Russian-Canadian computation expert called Vitalik Buterin. He is supposed to have been, it's a pioneering invention. It's even better than the original invention, because smart contracts have redefined everything. Every economic transaction is coming under smart contract. Now, one of the issues with that is As I told you, the platform is called Ethereum blockchain. It's called Ethereum because it gives Ether. The cryptocurrency is called Ether, which comes out of it. It is again the mining idea. You have to solve a puzzle to stop it, and therefore it is not scalable. But having said that, it's despite criticisms, despite it being said that it is not sustainable, lots of electricity is consumed, climate crisis, it will aggravate the climate crisis. Despite all that, Ethereum is still running as a blockchain, as a preferred blockchain for smart contracts to be generated. So what Ethereum has done is, it has gone for what is called as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Now, what is a NFT? NFT basically means one of its kind. So you issue a token. Normally, what is a token? How is it different from a currency? Currency is basically meant for spending as a means of payment, selectively used for storing it as a store of value and as a unit of account. Unit of account means you can only transact in that particular currency. But token is not currency. Token, as I like to give this example, is basically related to the performance or execution or the entitlement to a service. It's a performance guarantee thing. So these are called tokens. So token is not a currency. Token can be denominated into currency. If I want to buy tokens, I use cryptocurrencies to buy. But token is an asset. And every token is an asset. So when I talked about Ripple, it has got a coin called XRP. XRP is the name of the coin. Now that is not a cryptocurrency. It is a token. It is basically meant to generate, to facilitate transactions. It is not meant to be a currency to be transacted for goods and vice versa. So that crypto token is typically, which is used for raising money, is called like shares. We issue shares to raise money for our company. In the crypto space, what happens is you issue tokens to raise money, and it is called initial coin offering. So you are basically using them as assets. But those assets are, supposing I want to raise 10,000 rupees, I'll divide it into 10 crypto tokens, so 10,000 divided by 10. For each one, I will have the denomination and I will raise it. But those tokens were the part of the first generation of blockchains that was meant to support blockchain in enterprises. And they were fungible tokens because one token of the 10 tokens that I have issued, all the tokens are equal. It is equal in terms of its attributes. But NFTs are different. NFT for the first time, which happened in 2019, Corona year, I think it gained currency. Not this currency, the other currency, I'm saying gained a lot of traction in 2020. NFTs means it's only one token of its kind. So if I have drawn a painting, and there are people like Beeple and very big artists who have Damien Hirst and all that. They're gone for paintings. What they do is they'll draw the regular paintings on canvas, convert it into a digital form, and sell the digital form. They don't sell the digital form. They don't put it up in the auction floor and all that. What they do is they'll sell it as an NFT. And if you want to see what this NFT represents and what artwork it is, you can go into a separate off-chain directory folder and see and appreciate that digital version and like it. So this is the latest thing. Amitabh Bachchan has gone for his putting some of his renderings into an NFT. So you and me can also go for, if you have some digital work, we can go for an NFT. But why is an NFT? NFT is only one of its kind. It is not fungible. One NFT cannot, Amitabh Bachchan's NFT cannot be interchangeable to someone like me giving it. That is for a different asset. Because NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are different from fungible. It is for unique items and artworks. So this is the latest thing. And again, you are making use of Ethereum blockchains, which, as I told you, smart contract blockchain. So everything is smart contract made blockchain. So these NFTs are put on digital auctions, and people are raising money and spending it. Now, this is how it is. The new advancements of blockchain. Then there is the latest is from October when Mark Zuckerberg, who is a Facebook mogul, he decided to rename his company as Meta Inc. He said that my idea is now metaverse. Now, metaverse is another universe. The current universe that we live and we are transacting right now is not metaverse. He wants to create a virtual metaverse, a virtual world in which virtual reality and augmented reality, virtual reality, is basically creating a complete environment around you, which is different. So in terms of that, I will not be sitting in this room. I will be sitting in, you and me would not, all of us will not be transacting to each other the manner that we do through Zoom. It will all be that we'll all be sitting in our rooms and watching our caricatures, or not caricatures, or small images sitting there and talking to each other. They're called avatars. So avatars are supposed to be avatar, basically. So we see our agents sitting there and talking to each other. And we understand where the mistakes that you are making. And metaverse is basically a kind of a foolish, for a lot of people, it is very foolish why should you want to live in a virtual world when there's a real world is so exciting? That is true. But a lot of practical manufacturing advantages, especially for engineers, you'll find that metaverse, if you design products in metaverse, the products are much more foolproof. You don't have to have multiple stages before you try to translate it into a commercial product. So that is the latest thing. It is not just Zuckerberg. It is Facebook is coming with the Oculus to watch all these virtual reality images. But all meetings will be like this. The meeting that we'll hold maybe 10 years, 5 years, 2 years from now, we'll all be doing this. We'll be doing it in metaverse, this meeting. So Microsoft is also into it. NVIDIA is also into it. Each one is coming up with one service. It will be a new ecosystem. And now people are so, people are so excited about metaverse that they're saying you can buy virtual land. Now, you want to buy the Secretariat of, you have some fancy of owning the Kerala Legislative Assembly. You don't have to hesitate. You can buy it in the virtual world using the metaverse. So that is the level to which things have gone. On the face of it, it looks ridiculous, which it is. But that is how we also at one stage when the Wright brothers brought in the airplanes, we thought, how can we fly? It is only in mythology that we have flown. It didn't happen, but it has happened. So the way I see it is, metaverse is supposed to be virtual world. So you can alternate between virtual world and real world. Use virtual world to test out your ideas, bring it to Earth, to the real world, and see that it is working from day one, rather than experiencing multiple failures. So this is the latest trend. So to summarize, blockchain started in 2008. It was basically meant to correct a defective economic system the world was faced with after the great economic crisis of 2008. Subprime mortgages, associated with subprime mortgages. It was a rebellion against it. They said that Federal Reserve bailed out AIG. So it was a moral hazard problem. So it came as an alternative to it, saying that we will have a new currency which will be limited in supply, which will not be subjected to the ravages of inflation, and like what the US is now facing. And it will be an orderly system. But as I told you, they said that currencies have to come out from the sweat of your brow. You have to work for it. You have to mine. You have to close a ledger. Ledger is the source of all the problems in the world. So if you secure it, use a mathematical puzzle to solve it, you get a reward, and that is all. That is called Bitcoin. Bitcoins will happen so long as you solve the puzzles. Cannot be printed like fiat currency and freely distributed. So that was the idea, but it ran into some problems. Scalability was a problem because you needed energy, you needed lots of fossil fuel burning. Super quantum computers had to be put into place. So they found that scaling was difficult. So that is the first thing. Secondly, smart companies in the big companies decided that, okay, we won't have anything to do with cryptocurrency, which is an output given from blockchains, but we'll use blockchains in a manner in a manner that suits us. Basically, that means that we will have it as a permissive blockchain. A few people can sit and run a blockchain. ledger. It won't have mining, but it will be a consensus based on verifiers who will sit in there. The third, so that is another distortion. The third was cryptocurrencies by being limited in supply that created a problem for economic growth. And then those are the problems that I discussed. But today, blockchain technology is advancing. And as I told you, it has reached a stage where NFTs have come. So art markets are becoming more transparent. You can't, big buyers cannot just come and, it has to be open. It has to be put on a blockchain. So that means people can be seeing it. And it's a smart contract idea. And now the last stage is, at this moment, blockchains have also entered the metaverse. That is my point. So metaverse, your avatar creation, your virtual reality works, the artworks and engineering designs, this will all be secured by blockchain so that you get reward for what you have done. And that is the whole point about blockchain. So we have created a new virtual world to supplement our real world of physical objects. So that is where my story ends. I'm open to questions.
Nori?
Can we have questions?
Yes, sir. The banks in India are adopting blockchain for maintaining their accounts.
Yes. Yes, they are. They are.
Okay, sir.
But those are not the public blockchains of Satoshi Nakamoto, which I mentioned, which happened in 2008. That will be all permissive blockchains, which means a few people will be running it, which goes against the original idea of 2008. Everybody can get into the blockchain and do it. That is not that idea. But the BSFI sector is very active in that. And banks like public sector banks are doing it because that. The advantage is this, the kinds of things that I discussed, like LOU problems, scams, and all that can be avoided. And individual inter-country payments will become much more organized.
Okay, so another question. Even though blockchains has a lot of advantages, but it is not that popular across the globe. In India, it is not even legalized. Why?
Blockchains are legalized. I think the problem is with cryptocurrencies and crypto tokens. Blockchains are legalized, and nobody can stop the technology nobody has stopped the technology. In fact, banks are, a lot of public undertakings are thinking of using blockchains. What is not accepted is cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency, no government is going to approve. Whether it is India or United States or no government is going to say, okay, you allow Indian rupee or US dollar to be replaced by cryptocurrency. Nobody will do it. Nobody can do it. But blockchains are considered to be a top priority. Even now, Niti Aayog is talking about big, great applications in blockchains. But the problem is the original idea was to link blockchains to cryptocurrency. Now they are trying to de-link the two and trying to say blockchain is a good thing, but cryptocurrency can be.
Okay, sir. Another question. BC implementation may necessitate is how the system tolerate errors in initial entries.
I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it?
A BC implementation may necessitate is how the system tolerates errors in initial entries.
In ancient entries.
Initial entries.
Initial entries. You see, I will explain. Supposing you have introduced a blockchain into a system which was run conventionally under the traditional ledgers. Okay, so the old ledger entries, blockchains cannot. The errors in those cannot be replaced by the new blockchains which are coming. Obviously, it cannot. All that a blockchain system can do is, given the legacy data is protected in a particular way, but the new set of data which will come, it will be entered in real time at every microsecond because it is automated, and its integrity will be protected. It cannot protect the legacy data because it was entered using a non-digital framework, a non-automated framework.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful session. It was great listening to you. And thank you so much, sir, for sharing all the persons out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I invite Jacob Varghese to deliver the vote of thanks.
Hello, hope I'm audible now.
Yes, Jacob.
A warm and cherished evening to an end. Most valued honorable chief guest, Professor Dr. A Damodaran, all other esteemed dignitaries and their participants. I, Jacob Verghese of TKMIT, is much privileged to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who work hard to make the 94th talk of Intersociety weekly webinar series. On behalf of IWWS, I give a really heartfelt vote of thanks to your chief guest, Professor Dr. A. Damodaran, who spent his busiest time gracing this occasion. Today, we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this is definitely encouraging us in our future events. Your thoughts had enlightened our minds and shown us a new path. As a token of love and honor, we would like to present you a virtual moment. A special mention to Harindulal sir, respected chairperson of IWWS, being the catalyst that inspired us to do our best and stand as a pillar of power. With deep sense of appreciation, we thank you, sir. I would also like to express our sincere gratitude to the people who worked behind the scenes to execute this event, our technical arrangement team, especially Alan, Marvin, the moderator of the session, Rushda, who delivered the welcome speech, and Sandra, who gave the introduction to the speaker. At the end, I express my thanks to all the participants gathered tonight. Your active participation in the success of this webinar. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Now, as we have come to the end of today's session, thank you from the bottom
Thank
of
you.
our heart for joining with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks very much.
And the meeting is closed.
Next week's talks.
Sir, the memento is not handed over. The memento.
It is handed over, sir. It was presented.
Okay.
So on
So
2nd
please make
February,
the
is the- 2nd February is the next talk. Professor B.S. Shaji Mohan, PhD, Applied Electronics and Instrumentation Department, Government Engineering College, Westhill, Kozhikode, on distances and similarities for pattern analysis tasks. So I bid adieu to this program with my 94th talk, and I hand over to Professor K.C. Ravindranathan. He will be dealing with the next talk onwards, the 96th onwards, 95th onwards. Thank you for the support and patronage you have given to me, and good attendance and good participation, good speakers, good topics. Thank you very much, Professor A. Damodaran. I thank you for a good presentation, talk from the blockchain to the metaverse. And sorry that we could not, there are some more questions on board, but because of the time's constraint, we cannot present you all the questions. So I thank all of you. A lot of friends are there who has been attending constantly, and new friends are there. Okay, I request all of you to extend the patronage you have given to me to Dr. K.C. Ravindranathan also. Thank you very much. Once again, I thank Professor Neelakandan for introducing my old friend, for introducing Professor A. Damodaran for this great talk for the last session which I was holding. Thank you, Neelakandan. Thank you, other persons. I'm not naming each and every road. There are a lot of persons who has been attending incessantly, but constantly, with a good frequency. Thank you very much. Have a great day. We will be having some other meeting later sometimes. Okay. All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I request all the volunteers to offer